Brandon, I'm just wondering, through all the stuff, the stop and start of spring training, the 3 months and a half off, how much more are you enjoying the way this season is unfolding in the actual games?
Just because of
being
all,
more, just how much more competitive the club is night in and night out.
Yeah, I'm. I like the way our team has played, and we've had our good moments and we've had some tough moments, but I do like how competitive we have been. I think we have some guys that are having some really good years, and that's been great to see, and guys that are building blocks for us going forward, which is really what we're doing right now is getting guys established in the big leagues and seeing who's going to be here long term and who can we who's going to develop into a really good player and so to see Santander, Sevy, Rio get off to a hot start, chances at bats and how much he's improved both sides of the ball, and our bullpen guys too. Tanner Scott. It's a huge for us for those guys to develop the way they have. And, I've been really impressed with our veteran guys also. It hurts not to have Iglesias in the lineup. And I think you see the kind of club we are when he's in the lineup and when he's not in the lineup. And it's just because there's a pro there taking an at bat in the middle of the order. And he's such a great presence and voice for our younger players too. And so it's been an enjoyable season surrounded by all the stuff that we're not used to and we've had to deal with. I think I'm proud of how our guys have dealt with it, and I'm proud of how we've competed on a nightly basis. And I think that I think there's a lot of positive stuff being written, and I've heard on the TV and things like that about our club, and I think our guys deserve it because it hasn't been easy, and I think there's a lot of players on our club that have surprised people, and I think that's real positive going forward.
Rich Dubroff?
Brandon, when you have with Keegan Aiken, would you rather see him get his feet wet, get adjusted to the big leagues by coming out of the bullpen or by starting?
I think in our situation here, I think it changes depending on the situation. I'm in win now mode right now. And so for us right now, Keegan fits in our bullpen the best. I might not even use him as a long guy. I might use him as a one inning guy here too. But I think that, long term, is he a rotation piece? Is he a long guy? I think that's something that we will find out. But at this moment right now, I'm going to try to win games and utilize Keegan the best way we can.
Rock Kubatko?
Brandon, how close is Jose Iglesias to being ready? And did you feel like it was important to have Aleka back at shortstop tonight after what happened last night?
So Iggy did some stuff early today. It went very, very well. Ran bases, hit, took ground balls, and he is very close. So I think that's going to be tomorrow or the next day decision if he responds well from the work he put in today. With Val is going to be in the lineup today just because of Garrett Richards being a reverse guy, one of the right-handers in there against Richards. So he was in the lineup prior to the series when I was thinking about these 3 days. I thought the last night was just unfortunate because Val's played so solid for us all season. Started off in a utility role and because of all sorts of different circumstances, has really played. He's always gotten every day at bats, and that's just because of guys being down, being hurt, Iggy, all the stuff that has happened. And he's taken competitive at bats, and he's played very, very solid defensively anywhere I put him. So I know that there's nobody that felt worse last night than Pat, just because it matters so much to him and the work that he does put in. So whether he made the errors or not, he was going to be in there today.
Dan Connolly?
Yeah, Brandon, can you give us an update on Severino and also kind of with that, obviously with him and Iglesias not in the lineup, you're mixing and matching. But if I had told you in March or even in July that your 5-6 were going to be, Cisco and Mountcastle, what would your thoughts be if I told you that was going to be your lineup in late August?
Probably would have been a little surprised, but both those guys were taking good at bats. So it was like the at bats that Mountcastle took last night. The Severino update is that he is much improved today, and he's still day to day, and we're hoping here in the next day or two to have him in there. So to get him and Iglesias back in the lineup, that's a big deal for us, and that's important just because we're a lot deeper with both those guys taking at bats in our lineup. So we're hoping to have both those guys here real shortly.
Melanie Newman.
Brandon, last night I feel like is an exception to it with the 3 strikeouts, but Santander was shifted against 52% of his at-bats last year. It's 82% this year, and he still keeps finding a way to drive it. How have you guys been able to really combat that uptick?
Well, I think Tyler Glasnow made everybody look it was a tough night for everybody last night just because he was on his game. It's a true number 1 in our league, and he's getting back to being healthy and looking like he did toward the end of the year last year. So the top to bottom with the 98 with one of the best curveballs in the game that just falls off the table. It was a rough night for all of us offensively. But yeah, I mean, Tony's taken just really, really good at bats. And what I like about Tony is that he does use the whole field, and you can shift him if you want, but he can drive the ball the other way on the ground and in the air. So from both sides of the plate too. So Tony's versatility in being able to manipulate the barrel to be able to use the entire field and take pitches away and go that way hard, lost in our game a little bit. I think anybody that's on this call knows how much I love the RBI base hit the other way. And that's just it's a lost art in our game right now. And that's why I like him so much, is because he is so hard to defend because he can do so many different things with the bat.
John Meoli. John, I think you're muted.
Yeah, it's $20 in the pot.
Rocksteady handle my share of that. I have 2 follow-ups off Stan's. I'll ask one at a time. I'll come back later for the second one. You mentioned guys becoming building blocks. We see stats and we see performance. What is a determination of who is a building block and who is not showing themselves to be that in your mind?
What is a determination?
Yeah, what makes someone a building block versus somebody who is not?
Well, I think performance, I think improvement, guys developing at the major league level, playing against the teams that we play against night in, night out. We have the toughest schedule in the game. And to be able to take really good at bats, play defend, night in, night out, and improve over the course at a young age. I think that you get excited about that. And those of us that have been through a rebuild before, and in this stage that we're in, where we still have a lot of inexperienced players, and to be able to hold their own and to face the pitching that we face night in, night out, and to face the teams that we play, and to be able to do well and compete, and you see improvement also. I think that you're looking also down the road of like, this is a guy that's a middle of the order player, or this is a guy that's going to catch 100 games in the big leagues, in the American League East. Those are the type of conversations you have. Mike's been it through before. I've been through it before. It happens. So in 14 with the Cubs, Baez came, Soler came, Hendricks came. Rizzo was young. We just traded for Addison Russell. Bryant was just drafted. all of a sudden, like, these guys started to look really interesting and are super athletic. And we weren't very good, but the last half of 14, all of a sudden you're seeing like some exciting stuff on the field. And then all of a sudden in 15, you surround them with some veteran guys and your team is a lot better than you thought going in. So that's kind of what I mean, is that you're starting to see guys really be able to compete at this level and are young and have the tools to do it. So the Santanders, the Severinos, those type of guys, it's exciting. Tanner Scott out of the bullpen. That's just, you don't see Tanner Scott's out of the bullpen. You don't see 98 with that slider, with that inexperience. You just don't see it on a nightly basis. So those are the type of guys that we're excited about.
Steve Molesky.
Brandon, through 20 games, the Oriole offense was near the top of the league in many categories. And as you have pointed out, against some really good pitching. So now it's fallen off a little bit. I mean, is that simply a matter of that happens when you keep facing this good pitching? Is it some of the injuries you've talked about, or are there some other things?
I think it's a both. I think Iglesias out of the lineup affects others also. I think Austin Hayes is an exciting player that was a part of that lineup when we were really swinging the bats well, especially that road trip to Washington, Philly, where I feel like we were at our best offensively and our lineup was very, very deep and there was tough outs all the way through against good pitching. Sometimes things fall into place a little bit when guys are slotted in the lineup and they're more comfortable in certain spots. I think maybe the pitching that we're facing is also improving too. Give them some credit. Tyler Glasnow didn't look like this when we faced him a few weeks ago. That was a different guy. That was the Tyler Glasnow that started a postseason game or more than one postseason game last year. If he did, I don't know, whatever. He started a postseason game. I think that the starting pitching maybe is improving because they're starting to settle in, the guys that are healthy, and a couple injuries too that have affected some others in the lineup, which means the other guys try to pick up the slack, which means you probably try a little too hard, which can be rough. And I feel like we're kind of in that little bit of a rut right now. I think I was happy how we swung the bat the last day against the Red Sox, but last night for me, last night was a tip of the hat to a guy that punches out 15.
Joe Trezza.
Brandon, I want to follow up on John's question, but narrow it a little bit because you mentioned Tanner Scott. Generally, when we talk about relievers, you hear a lot about sample size, even in a 162-game season, how volatile their numbers can be from one year to another. In a 60-game season or 30 games into a 60-game season, how can you assess whether or not a breakout is real, whether you should believe it, or whether it's a sample size thing? Is that more difficult this year?
Definitely more difficult. I think in Tanner's case, I think it's individual too, right? So like in Tanner's case, Tanner had a rocky season last year in the big leagues, showed flashes, and had some tough outings. For me, he has shown since we started, since summer camp, really the ability to repeat a delivery and to attack the strike zone. And he has done that so far. So for me, that's different than what he looked like last year. And it's probably delivery based and confidence. And he has built off that. So I think that's been impressive. A guy like Santander, for me, hit 20 homers last year in 2/3 of a year and has built off that into this year. So I think it's it's like evaluating September. That's always the toughest month to evaluate a young player, because it's especially usual Septembers where there's more roster guys and bullpens are totally different and that kind of stuff. But we're going to do the best we can. This is what we have this year. So I think that we're doing the best we can with evaluating our guys.
John Mioli.
Unmuted.
Oh, nice.
There we go. You when you were I think talking about Keegan Aiken, you used the words win now mode. if this was maybe last August and somebody in his position came up, it might have made sense to give him starts for the experience, for his development to carry it into this year. What's different about this August and these circumstances that has made this a win now mode, and what does that mean to you other than, you know, you want the guys to play hard and compete and all the typical things?
Well, I think the difference is just because we're more competitive this year. I'm not sacrificing. I feel like putting him in the bullpen right now because it's such a short sprint season and it's different than most years. I'm not sacrificing development in his case. So like he's getting a taste in the big leagues. That doesn't mean that he's not going to be a starter or a long reliever down the road. We're just in a little bit of a different scenario right now where we're hovering around 500. Our team has stayed competitive. And so I'm trying to win as many games as possible. And in Keegan's case, I'm not sacrificing by pitching him either 4 innings out of the pen, giving him a start, or 2 innings out of the bullpen. I don't feel like I'm sacrificing his development just because this year is different anyways. And he's already been built. We've done a nice job with getting him in a starter routine through summer camp, and he's thrown quite a bit of innings. So this is just a different year.
David Lorella.
Hey, Brendan. You mentioned earlier being in win now mode, and you also mentioned veteran presence. What role, if any, do you have in trade decisions? And are there any specific players that you think the team really can't afford to trade if you hope to compete right to the end of the season?
Yeah, I'm not involved in trade decisions. So I take the 28 guys that we have here. 28 guys are going to be here today. Got 28 guys are going to be here tomorrow. We're going to coach these guys the best way we possibly can and try to win games. So any trade talk is not in my department.
And what about the second half of that? Are there guys who are particularly important that you think your club would really be hurt if they do end up going?
For me, that's a trade question that we lose people. It's going to impact us. So, yeah, I mean, those are questions for Mike, for me.
Last question, Jerry Coleman.
And this is why I waited till the end, Brandon. There's kind of an uprising that's going on around the country right now. The NBA looks like it's not going to play tonight because of what occurred in Milwaukee or Kenosha, I should say, Wisconsin. Have no idea if you even know what I'm referring to or if you guys have discussed it as a team, but I feel obligated to at least ask the question because this is kind of unprecedented what's going on here.
I did hear about it on the walk from the Bucks game. I did hear about that on the walk here and from my office to the press conference. Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult world we're living in right now. I think that we talk to our players a lot about what's happening. We represent it with the T-shirts that we wear through batting practice a lot of the time. Those were issues that we talked a lot about during while we were home on Zoom meetings during the pandemic, as well as during summer camp. And those conversations still continue. I'm going to support all of our players. I'm going to support all of our players and freely thinking how they want to feel. And these are important topics that our country's going through right now. I thought listening to Doc Rivers this morning, that was incredibly powerful. And it's a tough time. It's a tough time.